Well, welcome everyone. I think I'll go ahead and get started with the introduction. This is a webinar exploring our list of network lighting control systems with an emphasis on how you can use the list for help with interoperability, integration, and cybersecurity. Before we get into lighting controls, I'll take care of a little housekeeping. In case you'd like to share the webinar later with someone who could not attend today, or you want to go back and check something later, the recording will be posted at the designlights.org website within a few days. Also, all attendees have been automatically muted throughout the webinar. If you have any questions, please write them in the question pane. We will have a live Q&A session at the end of the presentation, and we might be able to respond to a few questions as we go along. So please put in all your questions as they arise. My name is Levin Knock. I work as a Senior Technical Manager in my 10th year now at the DLC, supporting the Network Lighting Controls program. Before DLC, I worked in the Energy Efficiency Program for Emerging Technologies at Bonneville Power, back when LED lights were just getting started. To explore the experience of using the Network Lighting Control list, I'm joined today by Matt Turk. Welcome, Matt. Who I'm hoping is on the air, but is muted. Matt is muted. So anyway, we're going to need to work this out later, or now. Anyway, Matt Turk is a specifying engineer with Newcomb and Boyd and often works on integration projects. He joined a DLC advisory group to develop an integration toolkit last year, and we're very grateful to have him joining in. We've had some technical difficulties setting up for this webinar. We've been flurrying around for the past half hour trying to set everything up, and I guess we haven't quite got it set up as well as I thought. But hopefully Matt will go off mute soon. I don't actually see how to change that for him. But anyway, I will keep going for the moment and hope something good happens. So let's start with a poll to find out who's here. GoToWebinar can only fit 5 choices, so we'll start with the top 5 choices here. And I'm going to select the poll. Poll in progress. There we go. And if you want to choose from groups 6 through 9, from more than the first 5, please just skip this first poll, and then I'll put the other choices up in a minute. So we'll keep this open just a little while to get some more answers. Looks like mainly we're looking at efficiency programs, implementers, and manufacturers, but also some lighting designers, some other folks too are. Oh, great. So we've got a nice mix of people. And give that one more second. Hey, you can talk. Welcome, Matt. I am so glad. So let me close this poll and then show the share. So if I share the poll result, then I think everybody should see that's who is here. Welcome. And then we will, this is continued launch. Just in case I missed somebody before, please claim your avocation here, but I'm expecting most people were covered in the first set. Oh, but there are a few folks from these other categories too. So welcome everybody. Let's see. Oh, votes are still coming in. Keep it up in a few more seconds. And that looks good. Thanks everybody for voting. I will close it and share it. So there we do have some other folks from other areas as well. So thank you for that. And here we go. So we have another poll. Have you used the Network Lighting Controls Qualified Products list before? And if so, how much? So one more poll before we continue on with the presentation, just to get a sense of who's here. Oh, I need to launch that. Sorry about that. There we are. And looks like we've got most people. Last chance to put in a vote. And thanks for that. Oh, there we go. A few more people. Great. And now I'll close that and share it. So it looks like most people in the call have used it sometime, but we do have 25% who have not used it yet. So thanks for that. And here we go. This, over the past 12 months, more than 1,800 different people have used the NLC QPL to verify products for incentives, to research NLC products, and to choose NLC products to use in lighting projects. In the top row of this chart, the biggest group worked at incentive programs, followed by the second row of ESCOs and distributors, who would both verify incentives and also choose products. Welcome, everybody. Here's our agenda for today. I won't read it all, basically some introductions and then talking about the qualified products list with an emphasis on how data in the QPL can help you address interoperability and cybersecurity. I'll give a brief introduction to the Design Lights Consortium, or DLC, in case anyone online is not familiar with us yet. The DLC is a nonprofit organization supported by more than 70 utility and municipal members across the states and provinces shown here in green, plus hundreds of manufacturers of lighting and lighting controls. In addition, more than 700 organizations throughout the US and Canada require DLC qualified lists for either incentive programs or procurement guidelines. The DLC works as a liaison for utility members and industry partners. We help efficiency incentive programs agree on a common set of technical criteria, so manufacturers can meet one set of technical requirements and then qualify for many different programs. Rebates and incentives for network lighting controls are available from many different energy efficiency incentive programs across the US and Canada. The states and provinces shown in green have regulations that support network lighting control incentives for projects of all sizes, while those in blue only support large projects, such as for a whole campus, that can justify customized site-specific verification. This map gives you a general idea of the regulations, but of course for details you need to check with your own local efficiency program to see exactly what they offer. Now I'll introduce what we mean by interoperability. Interoperability is the ability for hardware and software from different manufacturers to safely and reliably work together without requiring custom modifications. Another way to think about it is that interoperable components and systems can make friends and play well with others. Matt, where do you see the role of interoperability in the building projects that you work on?
Well, that's a great question. Interoperability really for the projects I'm on is essential. Most of our clients aren't necessarily asking for interoperability directly. They're asking for specific outcomes that can directly impact their business and how they operate day to day. And interoperability is a key enabling factor which allows them to achieve that goal. So ultimately, interoperability is not the direct ask, but is the indirect ask. And it's our job as specifying engineers to help them on that journey and pathway to achieve those outcomes they want to speak to.
Thanks.
And so ultimately, what does that mean you have a series of building controls technologies. And I believe there's an animation here. So what happens is typically in most projects, those are isolated. HVAC is done by a single contractor, lighting is done by a single contractor. You have AV, access control, fire protection. All these systems, they're producing data. They have networks of their own potentially. And whenever you silo that information, you may get delivery according to what is accustomed to now in traditional delivery and construction, but you're not necessarily getting the outcomes that an owner wants. So what you have to do, you have to start by first having interoperability as the starting point, and then that gives you a holistic automation within your building, so that you're not putting in, let's say, an occupancy sensor for your lighting system and your HVAC system or your AV system, right? You're instead putting in one, and then allowing that information to be shared in between these systems so you achieve a greater outcome. The other thing is, a way to think about it is we're fusing different technologies together. And as by that fusion, we're gaining better, more powerful outcomes at less cost.
Thanks. So in terms of interoperability in network lighting controls, this slide summarizes the DLC's reasons for working on this topic. We believe that interoperable network lighting control systems will enhance the market value of NLC systems in multiple ways. They will make buildings more energy efficient and occupants more comfortable, as appropriate lighting and thermal comfort is delivered when and where it's needed. They'll make facility operations more efficient because bidirectional data sharing enables facility managers to monitor operations more closely. These and other benefits delivered by ever-expanding new software applications will increase market adoption of network lighting controls, thus saving more electricity, which is the DLC's core mission. Now I'll tell you about what's in the network lighting controls qualified products list and how to navigate it. Our network lighting control system technical requirements serve as a filter for the list to identify systems that are eligible for efficiency rebates and incentives. In the DLC technical requirements, some system capabilities are required that every system must offer to be on the list. Additional optional capabilities are called reported, which means that some systems have those capabilities and other DLC qualified systems do not have them. All NLC systems on the DLC list can support the required capabilities shown here. For projects where lighting controls are starting to be integrated with other building systems, the most relevant are the top three in bold: networking, occupancy sensing, and cybersecurity. Some systems also support optional reported control features. The main ones here that are relevant to integration are remote diagnostics and external systems integration. Now I'll show you how to find some things within the DLC list of network lighting controls in case you need to choose an NLC system or integrate with one that's already been chosen. At the designlights.org website, you can create a free user account and then log in to see this dashboard. If you already have a DLC account and your computer has more than one monitor and you want to follow along as we go, then feel free to take a minute now and open a new browser window for designlights.org. I'll pause briefly while anybody who wants to open up a browser window at designlights.org, and I believe the URL is in the chat. And after you log in, navigate to the Find Products choice. So let's take a few seconds for anyone who wants to do that to then, if you want to follow along and see what I'm up to. And if you don't have an account, please be sure to sign up for one after the webinar, but it might take too long to do it right now. So I'm going to keep going. And let's see, continuing on, choose Find Products to see a choice of our different qualified product lists, or QPLs, for LED lights, horticultural lights, and network lighting controls, or NLC. Choose the NLC QPL. to see this online list of currently 95 network lighting control systems. That number includes 55 products where some are used indoors and others are used outdoors, plus another 20 products that are listed twice, appearing as 40 products because they support both indoor and outdoor installations. And the database has some different criteria and different fields for indoors versus outdoors. Anyway, you can use the filters on the left to narrow down the selection in various ways. The most popular filters are for manufacturer and brand. Maybe you're a sales rep or dealing with a particular sales rep, and you want to see all the products of all the vendors on your line card. Excuse me. Well, just select all the vendors you want to see. For instance, if my line card happened to consist of the first 3 vendors on the alphabetical list in the filter for manufacturers on the left, then I would get 7 results as shown here, with the first 2 of those 7 on the first screen. And then I would scroll down to see more screens. Or maybe I work for an incentive program and I want to confirm that a particular product is on the list. I can choose one manufacturer, such as ASD Lighting, and see only their products, which in this case is one system. There we are. Choose ASD Lighting and get one system. Most people only use filters for manufacturer or brand name. But if you want to filter on something else to narrow down the list in other ways, you can. For instance, you can open the Advanced Capabilities filter and then filter by something such as integration with BACnet systems. If I select the filter checkbox for integration with BACnet systems, you can see in the top right corner that the list got narrowed down from 95 systems to only 34. By the way, the subtopics within each main topic are additive. That works great in the previous example where we had multiple vendors to consider and we wanted to see any products from any of those vendors altogether. But in this case, it means you only want to select one checkbox at a time within these lower headings, such as advanced capabilities, to minimize any confusion. Now, suppose I want to see more details about one of those 34 systems that supports BACnet integration. I can click on a product name to see a pop-up window with information about all 22 required plus reported capabilities for that one product. Each product supports all capabilities shown with green check marks, but not the ones with red X's. For any capabilities with a green check mark, you can select it to see more details in one of the 7 gray windows that open from the menu below the summary section. For instance, if I select the external systems integration capability, then the interoperability window expands. We've got a lot of data on interoperability, so when I'm looking for external systems integration, I need to scroll down with the scroll bar on the right. Here I've scrolled down to the external systems integration section within interoperability, where you can see various data fields, including a list of communication protocols, which for this product is only one protocol, BACnet IP. Here's a similar view of the interoperability window from a different NLC product that supports multiple communication protocols, including BACnet, contact closure, Modbus, etc. Also, this system chose to report some of the data fields that are available through BACnet to the building management system, such as the occupancy status at the luminaire level. Moving on from the interoperability window, you can find similar details on other topics when the additional capabilities window expands, such as cybersecurity, where you can see the cybersecurity certifications that this product has, in this case, SOC 2 plus IOXT, and in remote diagnostics. You can see some details about which remote diagnostics are available, including communication issues, whether each device is online or offline, etc. Closing out the product-specific data window by scrolling up to the top and selecting the X to close the pop-up, we're back in the main view of all 34 products that support BACnet. That was a tour of some detailed data about one particular system. But suppose you want to compare detailed data across multiple systems. To do that, you make a list of all the systems you're interested in, and then download all the data for your product list to an Excel spreadsheet with a row for each NLC system on your list, and a group of columns for each of these 22 capabilities that DLC collects data on, for a total of more than 120 columns of information about each system. Here's a snapshot of a few of those columns. You can explore this Excel spreadsheet by enabling filters in the Excel Data tab. I also widened the columns to make them easier to read and sorted the products by manufacturer name. After sorting like this, it's easy to see those 20 systems that have an entry for both indoors and outdoors, since the two rows appear one above the other. To compare products, this spreadsheet view of everything can be easier than jumping into the detail pop-up window for each product one at a time. For instance, here I had all the columns between the system name in column F and the cybersecurity standards in column EO. So you can see all in one place which cybersecurity standards and services are met by each system. Overall, whether you're checking an NLC system for incentive eligibility, or choosing an NLC system for a project, or integrating with a system that someone else chose, the DLC qualified products list can give you a lot of information about your network lighting control system. And now, Matt is going to tell us about some of the ways that he uses the QPL in his work. And we think Matt's going to share his screen.
I am not going to share my screen because I do not have that functionality up. But if you can share your screen, I will guide you.
Okay, am I still sharing my screen then? Or did I lose it? Make presenter me. Show my screen. Okay, so I am.
So let's actively open up the QPL for the NLC list. Let's take a look.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just gotta grab it.
And while 11 is great. While 11's pulling that up,
Okay.
This list is great. One, we've just seen so many types of devices and systems proliferate with the IoT enablement that's been happening over the last few years. The great thing about this QPL that the DLC is providing is it can help you stay up to date while getting rid of some of the fluff. And that's one of the greatest things about this list is you can just immediately stay up to date. The other thing is it can help you just triage some market offerings. So with that in mind, Levin, let's scroll down and let's start doing what I like to call initial triage. Let's start using some of these filters you talked about before, right? I have a project I'm working on per se. So let's scroll down to, and let's start looking at, I'm going to want to talk about advanced capabilities, given my day-to-day. So we can go through and look at some of these. And I know that for myself, I'm just going to talk about a job I had recently, right? I need to integrate with a BACnet system. And then I also need to integrate with an AV system. And I need to integrate with the shading system. So let's just select BACnet and we'll select shading as our two options. And then let's just pick any one of these ones that have passed those two and let's open it up. And we'll get a quick, and if we do that quickly, any of them is fine. We'll just do a quick triage on it.
So unfortunately, since there's only 8 with shading, we should probably just stick with shading and try one of those 8.
Sure. Let's open it up.
Okay, so let's see what we got.
So we have a Enlight wired system here. So this overview right here gives me a very quick and easily digestible understanding of what's going to be in this system, right? Okay, great. scene control, high-end trim, these are all related back to code requirements, right? So if I understand my project, if I understand I'm working in a renovation, maybe certain types of renovations, all we're doing is replacing like for like. We're not actually doing a complete renovation. Maybe I don't have to need all these features. Maybe I'm doing a full renovation, which I have to comply with code. Everything that I need to comply with code is quickly summarized here, and I can know whether or not this system will work for me, right? And then from there, I want to maybe get into a little bit of deeper information. So let's go to interoperability and network. Let's go to the network tab, then we'll go to the interoperability tab. So network gives you a really good idea of the size of the product. Okay, like this is going to be great if I'm looking at a large project, or I'm looking at a campus, or if I'm looking at a healthcare project. These are generally massive buildings. So I know that may fit large buildings and could fit in some medium-sized buildings, but when we get into a small size scenario, maybe it might be a little too expensive. I don't know, but I get a better idea of what I'm running into just by looking at that. And then we can go further and we can go into the interoperability tab if you want. So the great thing about the interoperability tab is I have a general idea what information I'm able to get. Okay, I have energy monitoring. Great. That's information that potentially I don't have to meter then for a lead requirement. Lead often requires some sort of level of energy metering for your lighting. So this can give you that information directly. I'm not having to install additional devices. Instead, I'm going to use what this system allows me to have access to. Data allows me to have access to. So we're saving money on the project already by not installing additional meters. We're going to use this instead. So we can keep scrolling down. So, okay, great. Then I have the communication, like how can I integrate with this system potentially, right? So I have a backnet system, so I can basically integrate with any HVAC system on the market. I see we have Modbus available as well. That gives me some flexibility if we're going to integrate it with more traditional electrical infrastructure, right? Or if I'm walking into a more legacy environment. But I also have a lot more options with RS-232. So that gives me more local room control, allows me to do potentially shades, allows me to do potentially AV easily and simply. And then I also have an RS-45 option. So perhaps I'm walking into an owner environment where they need interoperability, but they're not willing to support IP infrastructure. And RS-45 is a way of potentially doing that interoperability integration work while not having to rely on an owner network or something of that nature. So that's kind of a little bit of how I would use this for my day-to-day. And with that, Levin, I'll hand it back to you.
Thanks, Matt. So let's see here. So I was going to talk more about interoperability. Oh, and
looks like I get to go again.
Yeah.
So let's talk about like interoperability. What we said multiple times in this, like the whole point is we want to get to an owner outcome, right? And so we're on a journey, right? Interoperability is the first starting point of that, right? But interoperability kind of relates to the ability to communicate with one another. If Levin and I can't even talk to each other, it's going to be very hard for us to have any sort of relationship whatsoever, right? So, okay, we both speak English in this analogy, right? Well, the next thing is, okay, I can understand Levin, and programming is not a great analogy for this in the human side, but sort of is. Social conditioning, maybe another one. But we get into systems, we're talking about programming, right? I can communicate with Levin, and then I can understand what Levin says and what that means for me, right? When it comes to systems, we have something that we write engineers write for every project called a sequence of operations. The sequence of operations describe how the programming needs to happen. When I walk into the room, the lights need to turn on within 2 seconds. And then the lighting system needs to send a signal to the AV system, also telling that to come out of sleep mode and also activate. And the HVAC system needs to also respond to that signal by coming out of setback mode and lowering the temperature in the room to the temperature set point, let's say by 2 degrees. So the occupants are more comfortable, but we're also saving energy when our building's not occupied or our room's unoccupied, right? So that's the sequence, right? Well, great. I can talk with Evan. He can understand what I'm saying. He knows what to act when I say a certain thing. So we're clarifying somewhat like what it means when I say, hey, let's do this. What's the next part, right? So we got to get to cybersecurity, right? What is cybersecurity? Cybersecurity is about trust, right? It's about validating trust. So, okay, Levin tells me something to do. I understand what to do based upon his instructions. Do I trust him enough to actually implement that and do it? Right? This exact same thing needs to happen with our systems. If we have a system get compromised, we don't want to necessarily listen to that system anymore, and we need to instead have another set of operations where we function under that, right? So once we get past communication, like we can talk the same language, we understand what we're talking about, we're on the same page, we trust what we're doing, right? Then we're finally able to get to this final piece, the owner's outcome, right? The systems can then act upon data from the other systems entirely, right? So that's kind of a launching pad for interoperability, right? So ultimately, like Levin said at the very beginning, making friends and getting along with others, right? That's the journey of interoperability. And with that, back to you.
Thanks. So we've been talking so far about how different control systems within a building work together, but you can also talk about building controls increasingly responding automatically to demand response signals from a utility or from some other actor outside the building. Some NLC systems can respond directly to OpenADR signals from a utility website, which is a common protocol for how utilities send out signals about their demand response programs, while other NLC systems can respond to demand response signals from the utility through a building automation system that's relayed by the building automation system by BACnet or dry contact. So this capability for a lighting system to pay attention to demand response signals is important for future proofing as the grid modernizes in order for buildings to avoid high demand charges. So next, we'll look at demand response as an example of how you can sort and filter the downloaded QPL to support product selection. In this view of the downloaded list, I started by hiding all the columns between the system names in column F and the demand response section that starts at column CT. That way I can see all in the same view the system names on the left and also the group of columns about DR that starts at column CT. Next, I sorted the systems by their demand response capabilities. I started with column CT with the heading has DR and filtered to remove all the blank rows. Whoops, excuse me. So we can only see the systems where has DR is true. And then in column CV for the external system type, I sorted alphabetically to sort the rows by the different ways of receiving an external signal for demand response. Then in column CW for OpenADR compliance, I again sorted alphabetically to group the systems that support OpenADR and also distinguish between OpenADR 2.0A, the simplified light beer version, versus 2.0B, that's full service with more features. And I wound up with this view. As you can see, if you look closely at the top, there are 11 systems that support OpenADR 2.0A. 2 of those systems also support OpenADR 2.0B, plus 8 more systems support 2.0B. If you look closely in column CV, you can see that most of those systems with OpenADR also support demand response through BACnet. Below that, there's a large group of systems that support demand response through BACnet, but not directly through OpenADR. And finally, if your building controls are analog, so you only need demand response through a dry contact, you can filter column CV again to see this pop up and only choose the dry contact options. Then you find these 17 systems that all support DR by dry contact. Most of them also support BACnet and OpenADR, but a few at the bottom do not. So a field that's only available in the spreadsheet is column L shown here with hyperlinks to case studies. Some products do not list any case studies, but all the products shown here refer to at least one. Some vendors have developed extensive case studies to highlight various applications to help you consider how NLC can be useful in various types of buildings. And this webinar is about the NLC QPL, but since we're talking about interoperability and integration with other building systems, I want to mention another free resource that's available at designlights.org. This integration toolkit can help you create successful integration projects sharing control data between lighting and HVAC systems. One of the documents in this toolkit is a list of 18 case studies about integration projects. So I wanted to mention it while I'm talking about network lighting control case studies. Time for another poll. When you think about the functional requirements, let me see, here we go. Launch the poll. When you think about some of the functional outcomes that drive interoperability, such as lowering demand charges on the electric bill, have you encountered any functional requirements from building owners that drove interoperability on any of the projects you've been involved with? And I'll pause a bit while people answer. We've got about a third of people voted. Let me keep it up a few more seconds in case anybody's still thinking. Looks like votes are slowing down. So let's go with that. And I'll share what we got. So most people are not yet, but there are some people have done frequently or sometimes. So thank you very much for that. And continuing on. Here we go. As I said before, interoperability means that NLC systems can make friends and play well with others. The flip side of the same coin is to not make friends by mistake with a hacker. So we need both interoperability and cybersecurity. And so Matt was going to talk a minute about why cybersecurity matters.
Absolutely. Thank you, Levin. So, kind of going back to our previous analogy, if we could move to the next slide. Cybersecurity is just so critical because what's the basic principle of cybersecurity has always been, zero trust, right? Always verify, right? So ultimately, what does that mean? Cybersecurity is the foundation of trust for networks, right? So we have our systems right above here, right? Let's say in this scenario right here, we have something happens with our access control system. And then what do we need to do? Well, we need to quarantine that from everything else so that we're not affecting the other systems. Because if we proliferate and attack to other systems, then we could have more and more impacts. And the broader the impact horizon is, the more difficult it is to assess what actually happened and get yourself back in operational. So ultimately, right, what does this come down to? From an engineering standpoint, I'd state it like this. My sequence of operations, which I should develop as an engineer doing this job, will tell me whether or not the access control system needs to be communicating with the other systems you see on the screen at all, or how that needs to happen. Then we can monitor what that typical traffic looks like. And once we start doing those pieces, we're able to establish a verification. So we can have trust, a certain level of trust that our operations are normal and that we can continue operating as normal as well. So ultimately, cybersecurity is just that critical piece that is so important in the built environment, making interoperability vital. And the information that is being provided as part of the QPL is a great place to start if you're learning first getting introduced to cybersecurity, or you want to learn a little bit more about the system functionality that exists right now. With that, back to you, Levin.
Thanks. So Specifically about why DLC cares about cybersecurity, utilities are extremely risk averse, and many programs do not want to pay incentives for products that might cause trouble for their customers. In addition, many building owners are rightfully concerned about cybersecurity, and this concern has often been used as a reason to remove lighting controls from projects. So ideally, the goal is to support network lighting controls that can support good cybersecurity practices instead of just leaving them out altogether. This chart shows the number of DLC-listed NLC systems with various cybersecurity certifications. Oh, and I should mention that all systems, actually all DLC qualified systems have at least one cybersecurity certification. As you can see, UL MCV 1376 and IOXT are by far the most popular. These were both developed specifically to address DLC qualified network lighting control products to deliver an appropriate level of security with appropriate due diligence for many NLC projects. So I'll tell you a minute about a few of these. The IOXT standard is based on 8 principles shown here as bullets that map back to US and European regulations in the 3 general categories of security, upgradability, and transparency. Device profiles are developed for the unique security requirements of various devices and markets, and multiple labs provide testing. The other most popular certification for NLC products on our list is the UL MCV 1376 service offered by UL. Similar to IOXT, this certification is harmonized with various guidelines and can be tailored to fit a wide variety of product uses. UL has developed a compliance profile specifically for network lighting controls that are DLC qualified that uses a combination of the silver and gold level requirements. Given that most NLC products use one of those 2, you may be wondering what all the other certifications are for. Most of them were developed for other types of products, and in some situations are appropriate for network lighting controls. For instance, the 62443 series of standard was developed for industrial automation and control in automated factories. By the way, some of these standards were developed by one organization and then adopted by others over time. For instance, 62443 was created by the ISA, International Society of Automation, and then adopted by the IEC and then by ANSI, as shown on the screen. And other standards with multiple acronyms have similar stories. Anyway, some NLC products, when they get installed in automated factories, they need to use 62443. I'm not going to go through all the certifications, but if you want more details on our website, there's a recorded webinar with an overview of all the different cybersecurity certifications that DLC recognizes, plus there's an 8-page report. And now Matt is going to give us some practical guidelines to help ensure that your projects have the topic of security well handled.
So cybersecurity is a very complicated thing, like almost everything in life, right? But you always have to start somewhere, right? And at Newcomb and Boyd, we like to call that cyber hygiene. If you're somebody specifying a project or if you're on a job, right? What do I need to do to make sure that I'm doing the absolute basics of basics? And these are the things that if you have an online checking account or banking account of some sort, you should already know, right? So, obviously, make a good password, make a strong password, right? You may have an account where you are given default credentials, right? Change it from the default credentials immediately. Whenever you get a controller online in a project, change those default credentials that come from the factory immediately as soon as you start working on the job, right? Don't share credentials with others. Have credentials specific for each user that needs to log into the system, right? That feeds into the next part, right? That enables you to turn on logs. Logs let you know what's going on. Same thing with your bank account, right? My wife and I have a bank account. We both have logins. Logs are automatically enabled so we can both track who's moving around everywhere so that we can know, hey, we're doing good. Same thing whenever you're doing work on a job, right? You want to know who's performed these edits on your system and track what happened. It also allows you to start performing audits, right? Hey, here's where we were last month. Here's where we are this month. You can also do that for your system. Here's the programming that was done last week. Okay, good, great. Here's the programming we need to do this week, and we're going to assign this to whoever on the team's responsible for that. Obviously, you got to set a goal. You have to have a plan, right? So cybersecurity is the same way. Like, go figure out a plan. Educate yourself on the various certifications that were in the presentation today, or about specific requirements that your clients may have. Start asking them questions, right? And then obviously track your progress. Same way you can look at your bank account every month and see if you're growing or shrinking or just maintaining, right? Track that progress. See what you've learned since last time. And then obviously things go right, and oftentimes things go wrong, and you have to figure out how to make it right in the process, right? So whenever you counter those things, celebrate that. And same way whenever you have a good quarter, celebrate that as well. And with that, and back to you, Levin.
Thanks. So, in conclusion, the DLC Network Lighting Controls Qualified Product List is a freely available resource at designlights.org that can help you choose appropriate network lighting control systems that are eligible for incentives and rebates. If you haven't already, please create your free DLC account to access the QPL. With your account login, you can also access other free resources, including the NLC HVAC Integration Toolkit and cybersecurity resources. The chat has both these links plus the toolkit link. And also, please complete the brief survey after this webinar that will be in your inbox. And now we've got one more poll before we get to questions. So the question is, will this webinar help you use the NLC Lighting Controls QPL any better? And I need to launch the poll, which I just did. There we go. And I don't think I'm seeing any questions yet. So if anyone has thought of any questions, now is the time to put them in the question pane. We will have at least 10 minutes to go over any questions anyone has. So feel free to enter them. Let's see, it looks like about half of the people have voted, and votes still coming in. So might as well leave that open a little longer and just ask, does anyone have any questions? Unless, oh, wait, am I missing something? I'm not seeing any questions anywhere. Well, let's see, we're up to 60% of people voted. Maybe I'll wait just a little longer and then looks like it's slowing down. Okay, I will go ahead and close this and share it. So thank you for answering that. And I'm glad that many people have found this helpful. And let's see, I can go ahead. Yeah, we can stay on a few minutes. Oh, will this webinar be available to view online later? Yes, it will at designlights.org under resources, definitely within a few days. And Susan, thank you for the question. So I know the question pane is working if anyone has any other questions. Anyway, yeah, we'll hang around a few minutes if anyone does. And otherwise, thank you everyone for attending. Yes, I think I'll go ahead and end since it's been a couple of minutes and not seeing any more questions. So thanks once again.